And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Kanell. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate, where Andy, Timothy, Richard, and more coming in, getting the conversation started here on an interactive Thursday. So we've got some questions from the big old bag of mail. We've got some questions that you have sent in to us individually. And of course, all through the tailgate, we'll be keeping the conversation going through the show. But I thought we should begin with sort of some news of the morning, which follows some news of yesterday afternoon since we last joined you on Wednesday. Things are coming together with the Ohio State coaching staff. On Wednesday afternoon, we get the news that Brian Hartline is going to be promoted to offensive coordinator. And then on Thursday morning, Ryan Day gets a new 7-year deal from Ohio State. The compensation annually is going to come out to about $12.5 million. Danny, cost of doing business, deserved raise. Any general reaction to Ryan Day's new deal?
This is what they do. Whether it's Georgia with Kirby Smart, Clemson with Dabo Swinney, Michigan had a rare circumstance where you saw Jim Harbaugh move on. And I don't know if Ryan Day had this in his deal. A lot of contracts have agents work out a deal in the contracts. Like if you finish a certain spot, you're going to automatically be one of the top paid coaches in college football. And then they'll have it in there where it adjusts accordingly. Ryan Day has all the leverage.
I remember Saban famously had a deal that would get reworked anytime any of the other top dogs got new deal. It was like X percentage more than the average of the top 5 paid coaches.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised by this at all. It's schools have money to spend. I do think it puts a little bit of a pause on the expectation that I had. I'm pretty sure Bud is on this page too, where maybe they were going to allocate funds more towards the players as opposed to the coaches. This still shows that maybe there is more room to grow with the coaches, which is insane with the type of money that they're making. But I mean, everybody that finishes in the top 4, it seems to get a new deal. And if you win a national title at Ohio State the first time in a decade, you've got a lot of leverage. Both your coordinators leave. Like, why not? And you almost were on the hot seat a month ago, 2 months ago. So good for Ryan Day.
I mean, the guy's a really good coach. He only loses to teams basically that win the national title or play for it, or lose to the team that won the national title. I guess with the exception of this year's game against Michigan, I am curious how high this is going to go, though. I mean, that doesn't make him the highest paid coach in the sport, right?
He's in the neighborhood of Kirby, and that's like we said it. He's a top 2 coach in the sport, and now he's getting top 2 money. Sometimes these extensions come out, and I feel like you haven't earned your deal yet. It's just like the market has resulted in you, and $12 million contracts don't come out from that. But this is one where it's the opposite. I think he's getting paid for the work that he's done. I think that when you give this deal to Ryan Day, you're giving it to him because he is 46-5 against Big Ten opponents, 70-10 overall. And he has, as Bud mentioned, just basically been running at the very top of the sport ever since he took over. It maybe not compensated like a top 2 coach. He needed that last little bit to get over the finish line. But this is not, hey, we're giving you this deal, and now he's going to have to live up to this, or the fan base is going to want him fired. This is he's getting this deal as a result of the work that was already done, in my opinion.
You know who's really happy about this? Agents of all these guys who are going to rep coaches who are going to get the SC jobs that are open next fall. I mean, there's like so many big time pressure schools right now in the SEC who have a lot of money, and it's going to be Kirby and Day, and then who? Right. Does LSU need somebody new? Does Arkansas need somebody new? Does Auburn need somebody new? Does Florida need somebody new? I'm missing somebody here, I'm sure, but I think we're going to have 3 or 4 coaching changes in the SEC after this year, so it's going to be interesting.
The bigger news of this is like Ryan Day got paid and he's just stopped recruiting, because the biggest breaking news of the morning is that Illinois landed its second composite 4-star from the state of Ohio in the 2026 class. What's going on with the Buckeyes there, Ryan? You just been partying since winning that title? You're not hitting the trail. You're not bringing in talent. Brian Hartline's offensive coordinator for 5 minutes and already the recruiting class is drying up. What's going on?
I think that's too much time with Jimmy Fallon, not enough time working on the Jimmys and the Joes.
That's right.
That is
Right.
facts.
Is Ryan Day free and clear now in the eyes of an Ohio? Not
Until
in
he
the eyes of
loses to Michigan again.
I know. So I was saying, not in the eyes of the administration, which would owe him some odd of, I don't know, $84 million. You know, it depending on what the exact language of his contract buyout would be. But it is in the eyes of a fan. You think that Ryan Day has done enough work that he can coast for a couple years?
I mean, I would hope winning a national title buys him some time with the fan base, yes. But you never know. I mean, look at how quickly LSU fans were turning on Ed Orgeron. It's like there's little patience these days. There's short memories and little patience.
I think it buys them 3 to 4 years. And then it gets you a little bit of a window, because even with Ed Orgeron or Gene Chizik or some of those kind of and then you were quickly fired within a couple years. Like, the track record previously wasn't great. That's the thing about Ryan Day. The total record is really, really impressive. I mean, don't forget, he did make it to the college football playoffs a couple other times, did lose, had Georgia right on the ropes before. I know the Michigan thing lingers and that looms over and it looms large, but I mean, at some point you got to be like, come on. Like, I think it buys them at least 3 or 4 years, and it could be bad.
The only thing is, like, guys who are wired like this, who win like that, they don't typically tend to just coast.
Right. Yeah. That's
right.
I think Ryan Day is a crazy person in all the best ways. Like, I was having a conversation with someone. They were describing a college coach as being a crazy person. And we're like, yeah, they're all crazy people. Like, that's just like, you have to be wired in a very unique way to be able to perform that job at that level.
Like, I know that Ryan Day, just like people I know at Ohio State who work at Ohio State, they're like, Day is a little bit different than Urban Meyer, like, not a psychopath. And I'm not saying Urban Meyer is a psychopath, but just like a little more like a guy you'd want to get a beer with. I mean, we know Urban obviously owns a bar and seems to have fun in the bar, but like, how do I work this analogy here? Like, Ryan Day seems more like a normal guy who's a really high achiever at work, but also is like cares about like the family, and he has some hobbies. He likes to play tennis, like, for his mental health. Like, he just seems like he's fairly well adjusted, I guess. And I think you saw some of those stories this year about how, like, the very lunatic fringe of the Ohio State fan base kind of got to him in his family, as would make sense, because I mean, there's some weird pockets of every fan base, but like Ohio State's definitely got some weirdos, and every fan base does. And
they're wearing face paint and giant buck nuts at the games.
It seems like, I don't know, maybe this will get old takes exposed, but he seems like a guy who's fairly set up to win for a while if he wants to be there for a while. Like not somebody who looks like he's about to burn out for the most part.
Part of not burning out is going to be having to decide how things are going to go on the offensive side of the ball. Brian Hartline's promoted. Tom, Bud, do you think that this means Ryan Day's back to play calling?
I mean, I don't know this, but I would guess this. I could just ask, Dave Biddle at Bucknuts what he thinks. I would guess that they probably are not going to hand the play calling reins to a guy who's never done it before.
Not for playing Texas in the. I mean, like, and
play calling is somewhat collaborative too, right? It's people are a lot more. I mean, I don't know if they realize, like, midweek, you're going over all the, like, Danny can tell you about this, right? Like, you're not like, hey, 3rd and 2, what do we want to call here? Like, there's some of that, but a lot of it's like you don't want to make those decisions in the fog of war, so to speak. You're doing this on your board on a Wednesday or Thursday, before walkthrough. Hey, like, this week in practice, we rep this like shit. We rep this great. Okay, it seems like our quarterback likes this. We're going to have 4 or 5 calls, for 3rd and short. We're going to go to one of these calls based on how it's been going, how we're able to block it up in this game. You don't have time to sit there and think about it, like, in the game that much, right? Maybe out of a timeout, but a lot of this play calling stuff is predetermined, and yet there is really a skill to play calling for sure. Like, having the feel to choose between which 2 or 3 plays you predetermined for that situation, or like, hey, we saw the way that they cheat this one formation. We're going to come back to it later in this game. Sort of some of that we talked about, guys who are running their script to score, and certain guys who run their script to give a lot of different looks to see how a defense is going to align and play stuff. And we mentioned, I think in the Natty or semifinal preview, like how do teams align like to your H-back, or if you're in 12 personnel, or if you sneak your best player into 12 personnel, do they treat that guy just as purely formationally a second tight end, or do they treat him more as like, see, exactly, or do they treat it as like hey, that's 12 special, where like Jeremiah Smith is actually the guy playing H-back there.
You know how you see the coaches and they have the headset on and they have that big board that looks kind of like this? That board is divided into 30 different sections where it is so specific. First down runs, first down play action, first down passes, second down play action, second down in 2 to 5, second down in 6 to 10. Every single situation you could possibly imagine is divvied up, and they do it so much that they know exactly where they're on. And guess who else is on there? So you've got Ryan Day looking at it. You've got Brian Hartline looking at it. They are talking through these ahead of time. Like as soon as you call the last one, they are thinking about the next one. But it's not like you're just spitballing, like just letting things fly by the seat of your pants. There are very, very specific, and like Bud said, each one has 4 to 5 plays on it. Certain situations you may see a little bit more in a game. They'll be a little bit bigger. And then you give you have a when you want to call it in the game. Let's get to this early. You talk to your quarterbacks about it. I used to go to the thing with Gary Kubiak. He would give us the play sheet that they all have, and he'd be like, all right, give us your favorites. So you would go through each section, put 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Order them in terms of your preference?
Yeah. So you like which ones you felt the best with. And like those were the best situations I've been in. And I would expect that Ryan Day and Brian Hartline have outstanding communication already, and that communication will continue on game day. But like Bud said, the game plan itself is made with Ryan Day's fingerprints, with the offensive line coach's fingerprints all over it. It's just more of a formality of who's actually calling the plays when it comes to calling in the play to the quarterback.
And then there'd be a coach like Mike Leach who just had this.
Right, exactly. Now that's next level.
Like 6 plays too on here, and he's like, all right, which one of these 6 am I calling right now?
Exactly, which is awesome. Spurrier was kind of like that too.
Mike Leach, do y'all remember before the Red River game when he dropped the fake play sheet?
Yes.
So he went out of his way to develop an entire fake play sheet when he was offensive coordinator for Oklahoma, with all of those, like, these are our first down runs, these are our first down passes. And all of them were set up to be the exact counter of what their play sheet said, like put the defense in the worst position. Right before the game, he goes and he accidentally drops it by the Texas sideline. Oklahoma came out, I want to say like first 3 possessions were all touchdowns and included like 40-yard touchdown plays, just totally exposing them. He realizes that they jumped on the play sheet. They aligned their defense in the couple hours before the game. Shout out to Mike Leach. Love that guy.
Another thing you said, somebody put it in the chat too, like the other aspect to it, when you see the color codes, like those are all have meanings to them. So you'll have zone beaters, plays for zone coverage, plays for man coverage. I mean, it's just very, very in depth what they've got there in front of them on those play sheets.
Which, I mean, why would you not? Why would you not try to make this thing as simple as possible heading into game day? But still, as many coaches have said, it's like everybody, it's constant communication until it's 4th and 3 and the game's on the line. Like then somebody needs to be the big voice. My expectation is that our new 7-year, $12.5 million per year coach will be the big voice when it comes to those decisions for the Ohio State Buckeyes moving forward. All right. So we still got to figure out defensive coordinator, right? Any hunches, any leans, any thoughts? I don't have anything yet.
We did see Tyler Santucci leave Georgia Tech to go to the NFL, and they moved pretty quickly to hire Blake Gideon, who was a DB coach for Texas.
That was a good hire for Brent Key, in my opinion.
I mean, Yeah, because I think Santucci is a pretty significant loss.
Correct.
Yeah.
Significant loss, but like if you've got to act, that's a good coach to bring in to give him that opportunity.
Yeah, like if I had to snap call, it's probably a downgrade just based on not any opinion of Gideon. It's just what are the odds you're actually going to upgrade over Santucci? I think just blindly here low, but it feels pretty like the guy's resume is nice. So maybe they did upgrade.
Coming up on the other side, what if Nick Saban came out of retirement in a very specific role? How many teams would his addition take over the top? All that and more next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale. Ronaldo. Wonderful goal.
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, we do enjoy spending some time on these Thursdays, hearing from you, the big old bag of mail. All right, here we go. Nick Saban has gotten bored with doing game day and wants to return to college coaching, but he does not want to be a head coach again. He'd rather just be a defensive coordinator. What team or what level would he immediately put over the edge and into the conversation for the national championship? If he went to a team like Ohio State or Jim Knowles or even Georgia, would that basically make them unstoppable? So what's basically the way that I'm reading this question, and feel free to interpret it however you like. What's the caliber? Like what level of team, if Nick Saban shows up tomorrow and is the new defensive coordinator, would you automatically just upgrade that team? Like Ohio State and Georgia, the teams that he mentioned, those are national championship contenders without Nick Saban. So him showing up, like, yeah, I don't know if it makes them unstoppable or how much it changes them. I'm a little bit more interested in how far down we go and sort of what are those teams that Nick Saban as defensive coordinator could take over the top.
All right, so who are the teams out there who we think will be really good offensively? Also, is it immediately, or are we giving him a couple years to recruit? And are we assuming he's going to upgrade the defensive talent too?
There's the rub.
Yeah, I kind of like immediately because I do still think that Nick Saban, as much as his success was built on recruiting, I do still think Nick Saban is like one of the great football coaches. Like you go give him, I mean, he didn't lead Michigan State to Big Ten titles, but he had Michigan State playing competitive football. So I'm going to go and LSU before Nick Saban's arrival was not competing for national championships like they were after he left. So I'm not going to give him a couple years to recruit. I want to find out Nick Saban as defensive coordinator, he could go make the most out of blank and help take them over the top.
I was going to say LSU might be one of them.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Tennessee, teams that are kind of on the edge. And they've got some of them have good coordinators. It's just you're talking about Nick Saban.
Right.
Are we Ole Miss?
Ole Miss.
I had Ole Miss.
Okay, here's one. Do you think that Oregon gets absolutely pantsed by Ohio State if Saban's the DC?
No.
No, not a chance.
No. Yeah,
Oregon was kind of my answer.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, and I like
Miami.
Chris Hampton, and I think Tosh Lupoy is a good recruiter, but and obviously Lanning is a really good defensive coach. And Kirby trusted him to call that defense when he had never called a defense before in Georgia, right? So the guy's got some real ability, but Oregon was one I thought of pretty quickly.
He probably could have had a better game plan for Miami's secondary than Gentry did.
Miami is in the college football playoff last year if Nick Saban is their defensive coordinator.
I think it's like there's a number of teams. I think the takeaway is that it wouldn't go as deep as maybe you might assume just because it's Nick Saban. But if you already have talent and your defense wasn't great, I think those are the schools like we've been naming where Nick Saban would be an immediate impact. But like as Bud was alluding to earlier, without the talent, there's only so much any coach will be able to do as far as putting a team over the top.
Ooh. What about Clemson?
What about Oklahoma?
But they already have a defensive coach.
I think Miami. What about the Hurricanes?
Yeah, I like the Miami. Yeah, Miami's a good one. Clemson could be pretty good. I could rock with that a little bit. Is there any Big 12 team?
God.
I think he would improve a lot of defenses.
Right.
I just don't know if he would improve them to the point where in the Big 12 they would go quote unquote over the top.
Well, when I think about Nick Saban from a coaching perspective, especially from the defensive coordinator, I go back to the 2023 SEC championship game. And if I'm a little bit off, I apologize, but I think I've still got this, where at the very beginning of the game, Georgia comes out and moves it right down the field on Alabama. I mean, and just kind of like had the Crimson Tide just out of alignment, out of position. And the way that Saban told the story, because you'll remember Alabama comes back and wins. They go and they make the college football playoff. They end up losing in overtime to Michigan. But the comeback started and Alabama started getting stops when Saban told the coaching staff, throw out everything we've done all week. Simplify this, strip everything down. Let's just let these guys go out there and make plays. And then Alabama, without having to overthink it, was just like, okay, let's just go out there and let's just play straight up heads up football. And sometimes, to me, coaching genius is being willing to make those calls and saying like, look, this is too much. They've got us. Let's strip this thing down and let's just go out there and play ball. And I like the simplification that sometimes comes with kind of casting your ego to the side, understanding that you're flushing hours of preparation and game planning because it's just not working. And that's what you need to be successful.
I've seen a lot of USC in the chat. I don't think USC would put over the top. I think he would improve their defense, but I don't think that USC is suddenly competing for the Big Ten last year if Nick Saban is their defensive coordinator. I think DeAnton Lynn's pretty good defensive coordinator. It's more of a talent problem there at this point.
Did you see Rob Ryan's press conference? It's worth
Clips of it.
Googling.
You guys watch the whole thing?
I watched like the 3-minute clip. That's hilarious. He's like, it's like if there was a background that said the Laugh Factory or Comedy Store, like it was like a stand-up bit. He's telling stories. Sounds exactly like Rex. I mean, they sound identical, but it's pretty hilarious. It's worth going to check out. It's pretty funny.
So he's the new linebackers coach, right?
He's like an assistant head coach or something. I can't remember his actual title.
I will have to go check that. Was it this week, Danny?
It was like, yeah, I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
It just happened.
Rob Ryan is currently an assistant head coach for USC and defensive linebackers. So we're both right. Look at us.
Are there any that we are missing? I feel like we've got that nice, like that Ole Miss, that LSU, that Miami, like nobody, Oregon. I think that's sort of the tier that we'd be talking about in terms of how far deep it would go. Is there any team that you could stretch? I don't agree. I agree with y'all. I think USC is too far down, and I think that I see a Louisville. I don't think that he takes Louisville over the top. Though, I mean, certainly Jeff Brom coaching offense, Nick Saban coaching defense. That's chops through the roof. But I don't know if I would take that over the top.
What about North Carolina? Pair up two of the greatest minds ever. Put them together. I still need some offensive help and some talent help.
What about Alabama?
There we go. If Nick Saban came out of retirement to be the defensive coordinator at Alabama, he could take Alabama over the top.
Ooh, man. Do we think that they would have been better this year with him coaching?
Yes.
Or
That defense.
did he leave because he knew what he had coming back?
I think he left because he knew what he had coming back, and I think he knew the changing landscape is where your significant edge that he always had is now diminished.
That said, do you think Alabama loses to Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
If Saban's there.
Remember that young secondary getting cooked early in the season where we were talking about, like, guys are wide open and it's just the Alabama's opponents aren't hitting it. We kind of felt like Alabama's defense was a little bit of a ticking time bomb in that sense. I don't think that would, I tell you what, 2025 Natty Champs in the chat says, if Saban doesn't leave, they keep Caleb down. So that's a great reason to believe that Alabama would be better. He would probably have some more options, more ways to stop the option that Diego Pavia is carving you up with. Yeah. I mean, the Alabama defense did enough basically to beat Oklahoma. That was an Alabama offensive problem. I don't know how Nick Saban changes that. But anyway, those are some of the good suggestions. All right. Do we want to do the Underground Talent Railroad now, or do we want to save it?
Let's do it now.
This is wild.
Okay. So this is actually brought to my attention from message board geniuses. Grab this from Panther Layer. We're going to go ahead and take a run at this. So it's called the Underground Talent Railroad, again from Panther Layer, the Pitt site. Step 1, self-awareness. Pitt, Maryland, Syracuse, Boston College, and Rutgers all take an honest look at themselves and think, wow, as college football programs go, we are freaking depressing. Step 2, collusion. While individually we make our fans want to bathe with electronic appliances, we can maybe accomplish something collectively. Then step 3, teamwork. Let's create a network where we're all transparent with each other. And every 5th year, each one of us can take its turn having the A team. In the first season, Pitt gets to have the best 22 players between the 5 programs. In the second season, Syracuse gets the best 22, so on and so forth. We'll use unlimited transfers to our benefit, and all players who commit to these 5 schools will be well aware of the deal in place. Playing on the A team in a given season will be a great privilege. Step 4, Natty.
I have concerns about step 4.
You don't think the best players from Pitt, Maryland, Syracuse, Boston College, and Rutgers could compete for a national championship?
No. They might get to the playoff.
They could win a playoff game.
Yeah.
For sure. They could probably win 2.
If you could you compose, would they make the blue chip ratio with those 3's best players?
No.
Out of high school, no.
That's why I have serious doubts if it works.
I mean, who are the 5 teams? They're Pitt, Syracuse, Rutgers,
Boston College, and Maryland.
All right, so your quarterback last year's Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
Blue chip.
Are you winning a national title with Kyle McCord?
Maybe.
Could.
Yeah, I think Kyle McCord.
Ohio State did not think you could.
Who's your best receiver between those 5 teams?
Ty Felton, Jackson Meeks, Trevor Pena.
Okay, that's a pretty decent receiver core.
Yeah.
But it's still like, do any of those guys start for Ohio State?
No.
Right.
And then where are we on the lines of
They
scrimmage?
would have started at Texas.
I mean, Golden's a good player.
Go to Tom's question about
Golden's
what matters
getting a
the
ton
most.
of draft hype, by the way.
Yeah, he's getting yep, he's in the first round of my mock. Not really because I put him there, but because everybody thinks he's going to be there. That's the thing. Offensive line, defensive line. Who's our best players between those 5 schools?
So there's a couple like suggested teams here. The one has Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College, Holland Pierce for Rutgers, Asamoah from Rutgers, BJ Williams of Pitt, and then Drew Kendall of BC, which is like not terrible. To be honest.
Terrible, but not. It's like
you get Gadsden from Cuse as a tight end, which when healthy is very good.
Love
He's one of the
that
best in the country. Yeah.
I also love the combo of LaQuinta Allen and Kyle Monungai at running back.
And
That's
Desmond
really
Reed
good.
of Pitt too.
Yeah, and Reed. Yeah, no, you've got, but that's the thing. Like, if you're taking the best 22, are we getting all 3 of them? Because do we need 3 running backs?
Like this team, I think would beat Penn State or Notre Dame. I don't think it would beat Ohio State. I don't think it would beat Texas, and I don't think it would beat the Ducks.
I don't know if this team could block Penn State or Texas or Ohio State.
Could they win the ACC? That's where I think you get.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
That's where I think it gets.
That was way too fast.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's that fast.
That was too.
I don't know.
That
I think
was
this
too
team would win
fast.
the ACC. I mean, most of these teams are the ACC.
Yeah, I don't.
And also, you get to beat the crap out of the other 4. Or only, 3 of them, 4 of them are in the ACC. So you'd get 3 designated wins right there. So now you're 3-0 in the ACC. See, that's the unfair part of this. It would have to be 5 schools from different conferences.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not really sure if fans would ever agree to this.
No.
No.
Like, you think
So
you want to
it'd be
win
the
a
equivalent
natty,
of
but
tanking. I mean, kind of like a tank. You tank for the year that you're up.
Would
You're
you-
just
would-
awful, but there's no benefit to the tanking. I guess you
Well,
just wait.
Would
You're
fans
all-
adopt other teams in tank seasons, or would they root for the
Yes.
other one of the 5? Where it's like, if you're the Rutgers fan and you know it's Pitt's year, do you become the Pitt fan, or do you just find another school to care about that season?
They all become part of the same program, and this takes on the look of, and Danny can speak to this better than anybody, youth sports, where you've got like your gold team, your like all the different levels, the A team, and everyone's rooting for the success of the program as you go to these tournaments, as you go to these meets, and as you go to all these different places. But everyone knows which team is going to be the one that ultimately gets the most talent, and all the players want to make sure they get there. Now, will players sign up for the disparate campus environments of being in Piscataway, Chestnut Hill, Oakland, and the like? I don't know. That would be an interesting, get it in while you can. What's the best campus or college environment of that crew? Maryland?
Probably, yeah. I mean, Syracuse is
Pitt's not bad.
It's a city.
I liked the campus area, that Oakland neighborhood.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. I liked it.
I have been to
it's got
Rutgers, but like
potential.
only to the football facility, and did not spend a lot of time on the campus.
That area is not great. I think
Agreed.
it might be Pitt or College Park.
Yeah, Pitt or Maryland.
Those two.
Yeah.
I'd rather be like, I don't want to. Pitt would be cool because it's nice being in a city, but not a huge city. But I'd still rather be more of for me personally, I'd be more of a college town area.
Up in Syracuse.
Yeah, no, not Syracuse. No.
And then one last one here. What would the name of this team be?
The ACC and Old Big East All Stars.
It's got to be some kind of like never-ending construction project, right? I-95 All Stars or something like that.
Yeah. Under construction or something like that. Or,
Yeah.
we'll call them work zone.
It's just the travel, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Sponsored by the Bada Bing.
The traveling Pramanis.
The
Something else.
replacements.
Yeah, there we go. All right, coming up on the other side, a look ahead to a big football game this weekend. What do the Cover 3 guys think? And more of your questions answered.
I feel home when I see the faces that remember my own. When I'm with my friends, I feel home.
LP says we could call them the Fines Doubled. We could call them the Big East Terps. A lot of good suggestions there. Okay. Who we got? Chiefs Eagles on Sunday.
Oh, is that this weekend?
I think the Eagles should win. I think they're the better team. I think they've got advantages at a lot of different positions, but there is no way I'm betting against Patrick Mahomes. Like Saquon Barkley is a cheat code. They should be able to run the ball, even though they got Chris Jones clogging up the middle.
I mean, James Cook ran the ball effectively.
Yeah. So like they should, and yet they're still an underdog, but until you see it get done. I mean, I've seen articles this year written about, is this the best or the worst, when it was 12-1, is this the worst 12-1 Chiefs of all time? It was like, yep. Like everybody's like, yep, this Chiefs team isn't very good. And yet 15-2, number 1 seed. And here they are in the Super Bowl again. Good luck. The one area I do have concern for is if it could be a repeat of the Super Bowl that Patrick Mahomes lost. If that offensive line, which is dealing with injuries, Joe Tooney's moved over to left tackle. He's playing out of position. If Mahomes is running for his life and
When
gets hit,
Mike Remmers was on skates against Tampa's front.
right? Yeah, that like if it's similar to that, then the Eagles should win. But again, Mahomes almost made some throws to bail that game out.
I need the Chiefs to win because I've got this crazy parlay that I put in months ago that I totally forgot about. It was the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, Ohio State to win the national title, and the Denver Nuggets to win the NBA title. So Ohio State's come home. Just need the Chiefs to win, and it was a $10 parlay that's going to pay, $2,000. So if the Chiefs win, I could probably cash this thing out for a decent amount of money, but I would just let it ride for the Nuggets. But I do agree with Danny. I think the Eagles are the better team overall. I think they have the better roster overall. I just think that the one team has Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and it's just
yeah. See, that's where I'm at. Everyone's talking about like let's break them down. Like who's got the edge? I'm like, can we talk about the sideline? Can we talk about the coaching mismatch of Andy Reid against Nick Sirianni?
Yeah, but it's more Andy Reid versus Vic Fangio, and I think that's a lot closer than most people probably realize. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's anytime it's one of these games, it's like Mahomes is going to do something, and then Jalen Hurts has been tremendous for the Eagles. But if it comes down to Mahomes versus Hurts, who are you taking?
All day long.
Gonna take the Chiefs, DC. Go back to last year.
You're talking about Spagnuolo?
Yeah, when Philly collapsed last year, I mean, they were just getting blitzed unmercifully, and they had no answers for it. This year, they have other answers, but we're going to find out pretty well how good those answers are, actually. Because KC brings it from everywhere.
I do think this game is going to live up to the billing. Like, I think it'll be close because Jalen Hurts, remember, because I would do the same thing. I'd try to take a Saquon away and make Jalen Hurts beat you. But he did throw for 300. He had an awesome game 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. 3 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown. Like, he played toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. He might have had one of his best games as a passer. So, like, it's in there for Jalen Hurts. But I would definitely say, all right, let's see it again if I'm the Chiefs.
Also, shout out to Saquon for letting us know he was close to signing with the Bears last offseason. I didn't need to know that, dude. I love DeAndre Swift. He's great. I'm so happy we have him instead.
And not Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Can you imagine Saquon and it been? Never mind. Anyways, thanks, Saquon. I hope you win. You made the right decision.
If they come out and they can push the ball, if Jalen Hurts can push the ball down the field like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, if they hit a couple big plays early, things could get pretty interesting because then you can't overcommit to stopping Saquon, and then it becomes a little bit like you take away how aggressive and creative that you can be. You make the Chiefs play a little bit more heads up. I'm definitely be looking for that early, and maybe a AJ Brown longest reception over. I don't know. Anybody got best bets?
Lay him with the Chiefs. That's my best bet.
I have not done any kind of looking into this game, honestly. It's
really?
Sick. Yeah, I haven't. I wasn't totally unserious when I said, "Oh yeah, that's this weekend." I have completely been separated from everything for the last week.
But you got any action?
I really don't have much, man. I like AJ Brown. I just think he's like a big time guy in big time games and will step it up. Do you have like Saquon unders for touchdowns?
Because Jalen Hurts would snipe them? Is that the idea?
They do run that tush push anytime they get close.
Yeah. That would be like
the chat said Ian Book anytime touchdown.
I like that. I mean,
that's what I mean. Yeah, you could try to think of because Andy Reid, those guys are going to do something kind of strange because it's a big game and they always tend to pull out some crazy kind of weird play, but so do the Eagles a little bit. So I think there might be some value in just like a really long shot anytime touchdown guy.
All right. Any last thoughts? I got a couple of live chat questions I want to hit. Any other Super Bowl thoughts?
I hope Kendrick's halftime performance is good in that everybody screams A minor just like they did at the Grammys.
Yeah, I think that you'll wait. So we're having gonna let the boys stay up for the first half. I don't know if Kendrick's gonna deliver for the boys halftime show. I mean, they've listened to some of GNX in the car, but I don't know if they're gonna recognize Squabble Up, when they hear it coming on coming through the Superdome.
Whose side are the boys on? Are they Kendrick or Drake?
Listen, there are very few sounds that come out of a Kendrick Lamar song that hit with young children like mustard.
We had to pick Liam's walk-up song.
For baseball?
Yeah.
What'd you pick?
He calls it the Canon song because like when we're driving the truck at Spotify, like the album logo dictates a lot of music choice somehow. But he likes the AC/DC For Those About to Rock. I was like, that's pretty good.
It's a good walk-up song.
Yeah, like I was joking around with I was like, well, like DMX bring a whole crew, but that like there's an edited version of that which is just sounds like the song's on mute, unfortunately, so we can't really use that. Yeah, I don't know. Like I was trying to think about other suggestions. The list is pretty good actually, though. We got some Beastie Boys. We got some from the
rest of the team
for T-ball. Yeah. This is riveting podcasting. But
do the intro to Korn's Blind.
Ooh.
And then scream, "Are you ready?" as you get to the plate.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we got Goosebumps remix by Travis Scott. Started at 45 seconds. 98 Brave started 55 seconds. Believe by Imagine Dragons started at the beginning. Who Let the Dogs Out? That'll be interesting.
I'm in.
Zombie Nation, 25-second mark.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Tom, what would your walk-up song be?
I don't. I've always felt like for like a UFC fighter situation, I would just go with like the most poppy, happy song you can think of, just because they would think you were nuts. Like, what's that song? Like Sunshine Lollipops, Gum, like from the 60s. I would do something like that just so people could think I'm a little bit off, just to make people wonder.
I like that. I like that a lot.
It's a mind game. I don't care about the actual song. I'm just trying to mess with the opponent, whether it's a pitcher or a guy I'm fighting.
All right. You got something else, bud?
Everything is Awesome from the Lego Movie.
Yeah, that's in that Sunshine and Rainbows. The kids do get hyped for that one.
Fireball by Pitbull. Okay.
There you go. Now we're talking. All right, let's dive back into the big old bag of mail. Going to take this one from the tailgate where Richard jumped in more than an hour before we got started. That he said, who do you believe will be the most exciting, and clarifies for good or bad, team to follow this upcoming season? This does not mean that they have to be a national title contender, but a fun schedule, players, or stories.
I mean, I'm trying to think of.
I think Clemson's going to be really fun. I think Kansas State's going to be really fun. Like teams that we want to watch, right?
Yeah. So like this is like teams that are just going to be. I think
Michigan
Florida,
with Bryce.
That could be very fun.
Alabama, honestly, like year 2 under DeBoer. Does the offense take a big time jump? What's the defense look like? Are we going to see Keelan Russell as the guy there? Shoot, who else?
Utah State will be fun now that Bronco's there.
LSU will not be boring at all. I don't know if it's going to be good. Like that's going to come to a head one way or another, I think. So that'll be fun.
Sam Leavitt, year 2.
Yeah.
Get a little Arizona State in there. I think Arizona State could be a lot of fun. Florida is definitely on the list. I mean, you could look at if you're just going to go off quarterbacks and stories, then Garrett Nussmeier at LSU and DJ Lagway at Florida, and what it means for Brian Kelly and what it means for Billy Napier, both in year 4. The famous declaration from Bud Elliott here on this podcast. We're going to look back at those 2 hires, and one fan base is going to be really upset, and one fan base might be really happy. Like the dueling Florida LSU storyline is going to make both of those teams extremely fun to watch on a sort of like weekly basis and take the temperature of.
I think Michigan State could be pretty interesting. Like year 2 under Jonathan Smith. What does he do with Childs? Like does he continue to develop?
Aiden Childs is never boring.
Utah with Devin Dampier.
Yeah.
Are we like excluded contractually from saying the one? Because like the one that we're going to talk about every single episode is Texas.
Yeah.
Like Texas videos are just
Why? What?
I don't know.
Who's Texas's quarterback?
It's a competition, Chip. Nobody's been named yet.
Man, it's been a while since I said Arch Manning. How did they listen? Not only did Steve Sarkisian bring Texas back, but he actually got Texas so good that Texas made it all the way to the national semifinals. We weren't even doing Arch Manning stuff as a bit. They didn't even play Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch.
Who?
West Virginia.
Oh, yes. There you go, Richard.
Yeah.
That's the answer. Can Rich Rodriguez, who very clearly brought a lot of the same principles offensively that we love Rich Rodriguez for, he took him to CUSA and got Jacksonville State all the way up playing for conference championships very, very quickly. Doing that at West Virginia, just seeing him back in West Virginia and seeing if they can have that same kind of success, that'll be up there. Don talking about Chapel Bill. I don't know if that's going to be exciting to talk about. I think it will be necessary talking points where it might feel a little bit more like obligation.
Like, I'll say this, like Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time, but when were the Patriots fun to watch? Outside of that year with Randy Moss, because Tom Brady would just chuck it deep and Randy would catch it. They're not Bill doesn't exactly play a style of football that's fun and entertaining.
No, I mean, it is a week-to-week proposition of starting over from scratch and finding ways to win at the margins and maximize your opponent's weaknesses. I mean, it is a meticulous brand of football, but he is certainly going to be at the center of a lot of those conversations. All right. Thank you, Richard. All right, here we go. This is a follow-up to Wednesday's show. Timothy jumped in the tailgate about 2 hours before we got started. After listening to the Big 12 show yesterday, how does Kansas State advance and maybe win a playoff game with Avery Johnson? His passing last year didn't show much improvement, and they refused to use his legs at times. Number one, he was banged up.
He was definitely banged up.
We need to get if you want to talk about imagining what Kansas State's offense with Avery Johnson is going to look like at its peak over the course of a season, winning the Big 12, getting to the college football playoff, and maybe even winning a game there, I do think you need a little bit of injury luck in terms of having Avery Johnson be totally healthy when you are playing for the Big 12 title and playing in that first college football playoff game. That's to me, a step one in terms of the disconnect between what we saw last year and what it could be in 2025.
I agree with that. So he was hurt for sure in the second half of the Colorado game, right?
Right.
And then was hurt for the next few weeks, I think.
Yeah, seemingly. He wasn't 100% at least, for sure.
And he came back fairly strong. I don't think – KSU advance and maybe win a playoff game. If we're doing away with the auto buys, it would be hard for me not to see them being a dog in their playoff game. Just kind of depends on who they draw, right?
You can still win. Kansas State's still capable of winning as a 6-point, 7-point underdog to a Big Ten team.
I do think that the winner of the Big 12 this year will be better than the winner of the Big 12 last year.
Wow, shots fired at Arizona State.
Well, and Arizona State did a great job, but you did have some teams that have a lot of the talent in that league not play up to their level this year, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically, Utah and then Kansas State with Avery being hurt a little bit and they didn't live up to expectations. Oklahoma State going 0-8 in the league. I think that we will have a pretty good shot here that the winner of the Big 12 is better. Also because I think the player retention in the Big 12 is better this year because of the house case than it has been in prior years. So I think the talent level in the Big 12 this year will be better than last year. And that's even including, obviously, the fact that Colorado is going to lose 2 first-rounders. Mm-hmm. But everybody else, I think the depth of these teams is probably better than it was this year.
Coming down the stretch of the regular season, Kansas State played its way out of Big 12 title contention with 3 losses in the final 4 games, only scored 19 points in a stunning 5-point loss at Houston, 24-19. That was a real head scratcher.
It was wild.
But then they showed up 2 weeks later. So they go into an off week. Then they come back. They're playing at home. And sure enough, Arizona State jumps out to an early lead, and Kansas State can't climb back. They only muster 14 points against Arizona State's defense. They beat Cincinnati in their home finale. And then in the regular season finale, a little Farmageddon action, they lose at Iowa State 29-21. Very fun, competitive game. Avery Johnson has 3 passing touchdowns in that game. But still, you're talking about an offense that down the stretch in games that you flip one of those games, they are in that tiebreaker scenario at 7-2. You flip 2 of those games, they have a spot in the Big 12 title game. What was is there more development for Avery Johnson, or is this something that you think that the Wildcats just need to use the best of his skills and then hopefully be a little bit better around it?
I think there's plenty of room left for development. I mean, you look at his skill set, he's never going to be a prolific passer. It's not in the cards. It's not his strength, but you can figure out ways to improve what he's good at and take advantage of it. And then you have to, his legs will always be an asset. Like, ideally, you want to get to a place where teams have to respect his ability to throw, but you're not completely reliant on him doing everything with his legs. Like, maybe he can improvise and run, and you do a few designed runs, but he's not going to be, I don't know, Joe Burrow. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be Avery Johnson. You just have to figure out ways to use what he's good at and improve the areas where he needs work on. And I mean, he's still very young. Like, it's not like he was a senior last season. He's a young kid, still plenty of room left to grow.
I would think here that Kansas State's actions say they still believe in him a lot. Like, we know Avery was, what's the right word for this? Not being shopped, but there were definitely teams who kicked the tires with, and the numbers were pretty high. And I don't know what Kansas State paid him, but it wasn't nothing. I think he's probably one of the higher paid quarterbacks in college football, just based on things I heard. That's my guess, maybe an educated guess based on the market conditions. I don't think they would pay up if they didn't really still believe in what he has.
There you go, Timothy. We will look ahead to, again, Kansas State, the co-favorites in the the co-favorites in the Big 12, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more. I got an email from our friend Jeff. He is a big boss type, CBS Sports over in the communications department, and he pointed something out. He's a big fan of the show, and when we were talking about media trades, he said the one that came to mind was an odd trade, and please tell me if y'all remember this, between Disney, ABC, and NBC that saw ESPN send Al Michaels to NBC in exchange for Oswald the Rabbit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The OG Disney cartoon. And sure enough, Jeff, you weren't the only one who was thinking about it, because we had a friend jump in the tailgate as well. The Luca-like sports media trade you were thinking of is when Disney traded Al Michaels to NBC for the rights to Oswald the Rabbit. If you were, and I was not in media in 2006. If you were Al Michaels, how do you feel being traded for an old school Disney cartoon?
So that was the precursor to Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like that must have been pretty important to Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an intellectual property.
Yes.
Move?
Yep.
Like they wanted it back, and NBC somehow owned it.
Mm-hmm.
Oswald starred in 26 black and white cartoons before becoming NBC Universal's property and then forcing the invention of his successor, Mickey Mouse. In 1928, having failed in a bid to persuade Universal executives to let him keep his star rabbit, Walt Disney came up with the gloved four-fingered mouse that would become not only his signature character, but an international icon. The rodent bore a striking resemblance to the rabbit who'd preceded him, but this time around, Disney had locked up the rights. I tell you what, you got that. You think you're cool with the little Ken Griffey trading card. NBC Universal's got Oswald the Rabbit on lock. You get Al Michaels out of that one.
Al Michaels has probably eaten rabbit. He only eats meat. Doesn't eat vegetables.
Oh, that's right. We learned that during one of the mini therapy sessions in the booth of Thursday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
And the game would be bad, and Al and Kirk would be, chopping it up, and that's we learned these things.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Bud, who's going to be Iowa's starting quarterback in 2025?
Oh, it's the kid they got from South Dakota.
Jim Grabowski, the Bears
Grabowski.
super fan.
Mark Gronowski.
Yeah, it's not Gronkowski, right?
It's not Gronkowski. So
No.
Andy,
Okay,
yeah. I didn't want to cause any confusion. Andy jumped in the tailgate before we got started. He said, no talk on Mark, and he meant Gronowski. No talk on Mark Gronowski to the Hawks. Is this Iowa's best quarterback since Nate Stanley?
God, now I'm gonna have to remember who the quarterback was for each season for Iowa. When did Nate Stanley play?
He's the best Iowa quarterback since Spencer Petras.
Oh,
He's the best Iowa quarterback since Ricky Stanzi.
okay. Now we're talking.
I mean, I think the answer is unquestionably yes. He is. I think he's way better than the kid they got from Michigan. We were first guessing, most of us, I think, were first guessing, wait, you guys paid
Cade
up for him?
McNamara.
God, I was like, you guys paid for him? That's dumb. But he was a winner when he was surrounded by awesome talent at Michigan. Less so with Iowa's talent.
He did win a Big Ten title. He was
the quarterback.
He was the starting quarterback of a Big Ten championship. Yes, that is true.
Where's McNamara finish up his career?
Some tiny little ass East Tennessee State.
East Tennessee State.
That's where Eddie George is, right?
So
I thought he was at Tennessee State.
He was committed to Western.
Eddie's at Tennessee State, yeah.
Wait, so he committed to Western Kentucky, and then he transferred to East Tennessee State instead.
Mm-hmm. Want to go to a football school.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mark Gronowski, South Dakota State. 6'3", 230, athletic. We know that the way South Dakota State runs their offense, they do ask a little bit of dual threat ability from their quarterback. He did undergo surgery. He will not actually participate in spring practice fully until we get in. He won't participate in spring practice fully. He will be back doing on-field work once we get into June and sort of the summertime. But is he the best quarterback since Nate Stanley? I don't know. But I do think that he will continue to build on what we saw from Iowa this season, which is an offense that is no longer only trying to score 23 points to win a football game. I think that he is a nice plus addition to the steps forward that the Hawkeyes offense took in year one with Tim Lester at the helm. All right.
The latest savior for Iowa's offense. He is going to look so good handing the ball off 34 times.
Caleb Johnson's gone.
That's fine. They'll find another one.
Listen.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Great. You put him in a Shanahan kind of outside zone scheme, he's going to be great.
Oh, this is a great call from a friend at the tailgate. So Cade McNamara and Davis Warren both have wins against Ryan Day.
Listen, life is complicated. Big, crazy world out there.
You can be 70-10 with the Natty. You can be 46-5 in conference play, and that's a sterling resume.
They remember the 10.
Still, I mention that of those 5 conference losses, 2 of them have come to Cade McNamara at East Tennessee State, Davis Warren,
who should be at East Tennessee,
who maybe should have been. Hey, we said a directional Michigan. Okay. All right. We will be back on Monday, getting you set for the week ahead in college football. Come and join us 11 a.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/cover3. Hope each and every one of you enjoys the big game. Snap call, favorite Super Bowl food?
Beer.
Wings, but I could probably eat them for every meal.
You could do wings for every single meal?
Yeah, I almost said something there I shouldn't say, but yeah, Yeah, I mean, if you were forced to eat like one food only for the rest of your life, like wings would come up pretty quickly.
What would mine be?
Gumbo.
No. There's too much shellfish in there.
Oh yeah, that's true. I would go pasta.
Yeah, but what kind? Like, you can't just say pasta.
If I can trade out my meats and veggies and other ingredients and I can just stick with a red sauce pasta, I will rock with that. Like if I could have sausage in one, if I could have beef in another, if I could switch out the meats, a red sauce pasta.
Thin crust, sausage, and black olives pizza.
Oh, not interesting.
We'll be having barbecue here at the Patterson household on Sunday.
Nice. Are you making it?
No, absolutely not. Hey, no free ads. Longleaf Swine down on Person Street. My guy Adam. Listen. When you're in with the crew, you let them do the work and you just say thank you. Go and pick it up right before people come over.
By the way, Mark Ennis, friend of the show, texts in. Most exciting team, by the way, is Oklahoma State. Gundy and Grantham paired together. That does have
damn, Mark, that's a good one.
Fireworks potential, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what we're going 48-45 every single game with blitzes every single play and just touchdowns left and right. Love it. All right. So we will be back on Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, youtube.com/cover3. Come and hang out. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. Follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Detroit pizza isn't pizza. It's just pizza bread.